I want to start with something today that genuinely makes me angry. Girls are being missed. ADHD girls are being missed, and it's not because they don't have ADHD, it's because they're really, really good at looking like they don't. And while they're doing that, while they're holding it together at school, copying what everybody else does, staying quiet, smiling, not causing any trouble, their confidence is collapsing on the inside when nobody can see it. And if you have a daughter at home that comes home and falls apart, who is bright but absolutely exhausted, who overthinks everything, loses things constantly, tries so hard and still feels like she's failing, then this episode is for you, because she's fine it's a dismissal, it's not a diagnosis, and she might be fine, but a better question is, but at what cost is she fine? Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you something, and you can ponder on this wherever you are. If you have ever sat in a school meeting as a teacher or a parent and been told she's doing fine, when you knew in your gut something wasn't right, then this episode and this channel exists for you. Every single week, I put out content that the system isn't giving you. Research, real talk, practical schools, the stuff you should be getting from the professionals, but you aren't, and it is free. So if that matters to you, I want to ask you a favour. Please hit that subscribe button right now, not later. Please hit it now, because the more people who follow this channel, the more children we can reach, and that is the whole point. So let's get into it. If you're new here, my name's Steph. I'm the founder and CEO of the Inclusive Teacher Company. I'm a former English teacher, literacy specialist, neurodiversity specialist, and I also have ADHD myself. I was late diagnosed. I was diagnosed when I was 37. I work with parents who are trying to understand neurodiversity, their neurodivergent children, and specifically ADHD and reading through a very neuro-affirming lens. And my whole thing is, let's act early, let's understand what's actually going on, and let's protect the long-term outcomes for them. Now, today we're talking about girls, and we're talking about masking and about why the kids who look fine on the outside are the ones who need the most support, and what you can actually do about it. So here's what I'm covering today. I'm going to be looking at the UK picture and what the data tells us about girls and ADHD diagnoses, what masking actually is and why girls do it so well it fools freaking everybody. I masked for so long myself, I didn't even know I was masking. We're going to look at why school gets harder over time and what that means for reading, which gateway skill. It's a hill I'm dying on. Reading is the gateway skill. And 5 things you can actually do this week, including the exact words to use with school. So let's start with what we actually know. Let's start with the UK picture. NHS digital data from 2024 to 25 shows that 1.6% of males have a recorded ADHD diagnosis compared to 0.9% of females. That gap has narrowed over time, but it hasn't actually closed. And NHS England themselves have said in very, very plain language, ADHD is under-recognised, underdiagnosed and undertreated in England right freaking now. And statistics, fine, they can only tell us so much, but what they confirm, girls are less likely to be identified early. Many are not picked up until much later on, often of years, after years of quietly struggling and really going through the motions. And every year that identification is delayed is another year that the right support is delayed, a year that confidence has been chipped away, and it really, really matters. I work with a lot of women who are late diagnosed ADHD, and I can tell you that they've been struggling for years. They've thought for years, what is actually wrong with me? And also there's a bit of grief as well. There's a bit of grief, a bit of resentment and some trauma. And they often wonder, why wasn't this picked up? Why don't people know enough about ADHD to have picked this up for me earlier on in my life? In fact, if you keep your eyes and ears peeled and you follow me at Inclusive Teacher Co on social media, or even Steph Beatty Official, you will see that we're bringing a book out later this year. I'm curating this book where every chapter has been written by a woman who has been diagnosed late in life with ADHD. It's called ADHD Hair, The Truth That Took Too Long. So please do follow along in socials. We're trying very hard to get this book out by the end of the year. I am self-publishing, so we'll see how that goes. but this matters, their voices matter, and I really want other women to read this book and feel seen and feel heard as well. But let's actually talk about masking here, because I think a lot of parents have heard this word, but they're not completely sure what it looks like in real life, and it might look different for different girls and different people. Masking for me is a bit of a survival strategy, and the way that I used to see this in children when I was a teacher is it's a set of things that the child does, consciously or not, to look quote unquote normal. Okay, so if you're listening to this, I am doing the inverted commas thing with my hands, to look normal, to fit in, to avoid standing out, to avoid getting into trouble, to avoid feeling or looking embarrassed. And the research on there shows that girls actually mask more frequently and effectively than boys. And they describe it, the research on this camouflaging in girls, it describes it as a combination of masking behaviours and social imitation, so they'll copy, and assimilation, but essentially they study what neurotypical people do and they copy it. They perform a version of themselves that the world finds more acceptable. And for girls, for a whole load of social reasons, they are bloody brilliant at it. They are absolutely brilliant at it. So what does it actually look like? It can be the girl that holds herself together all day and then falls apart the moment she walks through the front door, because she's been masking all day, she's been trying hard to stay emotionally regulated, and in that safe space at home, the mask comes off and you guys as parents, you guys get the worst of it. It could be the girl that copies her friends, she mirrors them, she becomes good at it. She might even over-prepare. Her perfectionism might go through the roof. She might be working twice as hard as everybody else just to keep up, or just to make sure she doesn't get into trouble. She might be a bit of a people pleaser. She might be terrified of getting things wrong. And she might internalize all of it. She might say to herself, I'm bad at this, I'm lazy, I'm stupid, what's wrong with me? Why can everybody else do it and I can't? And that's the thing here that should stop us in our tracks as well, is that, again, this is all research. Higher levels of masking or camouflaging or whatever we want to call it are actually directly linked to anxiety and depression, or higher anxiety and depression symptoms. So when she masks really, really successfully, the adults around us see less disruption and less obvious struggle, and they think, well, they need less then. They don't need the support. She's doing fine. But what's happening in the inside is a really, really different story. Now, it's really difficult. Girls are being missed, and I'm not blaming anybody here, by the way, but we all need to do better. We all need to do better. I should have done better as a teacher. I know that a lot of parents need more information on this. I think teachers need to do better. I think our clinicians need to do better. But the problem is, they mask so well, it's sometimes hard for a parent or a professional to actually spot it, okay? And the reason as well, though, another reason why girls get missed, is that our mental image of ADHD is the boys who just can't sit still. That's what GPs tend to have in their head. That's what the teachers are looking for. But girls can present completely differently. Their difficulties are more internal, their coping strategies are more socially shaped, and they look fine until they're not. They can get misdiagnosed because they are internalized in this ADHD. It can be, well, you have anxiety or you have depression, and that masking can contribute to ADHD going completely unnoticed. So, does any of this sound familiar? She's been described as anxious, sensitive, maybe perfectionist, maybe a bit daydreamy, bright but not applying herself, chatty but distracted, or she just needs to get more organised, or she's always running late, she's always losing things, always the last one ready. Now, please hear me when I say this. Those things can all be ADHD-shaped experiences, especially when they are chronic, they're exhausting, and they never quite go away no matter how hard she is trying. Now, this is something that I want every parent of a girl who has ADHD to understand. Early school is very, very scaffolded, okay? And I know this, whilst I'm not a primary trained teacher, I have done an awful lot of work with primary schools, primary school liaison with year 6 into year 7 transition. Early school is very, very scaffolded. The teachers prompt them. Parents, you'll know, you'll pack bags. Homework, rightly so, should be short. I think we should scrap it, but that's another thing. Books can be manageable, and there are adults everywhere filling in these gaps for the kids. But as they move through school, that scaffolding doesn't always go away, but it can get less and less. And the complexity of what they're expected to read, write, plan, and organise independently, it goes up a lot. Okay, the academic demands increase, the text gets denser, the instructions get longer, the expectation shifts that you should be able to do this yourself now. But if they've never been trained and they don't have the skills, it's going to be damn hard for them. Okay, they can't do it. And if they've been masking as well, coping through sheer effort and sheer imitation rather than genuine understanding, then this is when the wheels come off. The demands exceed the coping strategies, and that is the cliff edge. And when I talk about reading is the gateway skill, I mean that genuinely. It's the gateway skill to everything, every subject, every exam, every independent piece of work. And when it starts to wobble, you start to feel it everywhere. Okay, not just in English. The cliff edge isn't sudden, it's been building for years. The fall itself just looks sudden. So I'm going to give you 5 things that you can do this week. I want to make this useful, I want to make this practical, and you don't have to wait for the system to catch up. And again, if you are finding this helpful, do a couple of things. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and if you know any parents that may benefit from this, please send them to this pod. Send them the link, share it with them, even take a screenshot, and make sure that they can hear this, so we don't have to wait for the system to catch up. So strategy 1, let's stop using she's fine as evidence. So we've got to ask yourself a couple of questions, all right? What is the cost of looking fine? Does she crash after school? Is she exhausted by Wednesday? Is homework taking 3 times longer than it should? Is she overly self-critical? Is she anxious about making mistakes? Is she fine on the outside, but we know that is not the full picture? So stop using she's fine as evidence. Let's start asking questions. That's strategy 1. Strategy 2, I want you to start tracking patterns, okay? Not one-off incidents. Incidents happen, one-off things happen. They forget the homework from time to time, that's fine, okay? But track patterns, okay? That's the strategy number 2 here. Schools can often dismiss concerns when a child isn't disruptive. And again, no blame here whatsoever. Teachers have a damn hard job, and anybody who says, oh, but they get 6 weeks off a year, stop listening to my pod now and then go away, because you're not my audience. Please never say that. Teachers have a damn hard job. Okay, so we can miss children. We are only human. And if you're at secondary level as well, you could be teaching about 100 to 150, 200 kids a day. If you've got 5 lessons a day and you've got 30 kids in a class, what's that? 150 kids a day plus your form group could be 180 kids a day. All right, and if you've got leadership responsibility, it can be really difficult. Okay, so, if they're not disruptive, it's not that they're being deliberately dismissed, it's that they could just be being missed, okay? So think about patterns. So how often is she losing things? How often is she forgetting her homework? How long does homework actually take? How does she seem after school most days? How is her sleep doing? So write it down. You don't have to even tell her if you don't want to. Just start tracking before you have that conversation. Dates, patterns, specifics, and then go to school and say, look, we need some synergy and some collaboration to support her here. Schools want to work with parents for the best possible outcomes for your children. So go to school and have that conversation with them, but track the patterns, okay? Now, strategy 3 is use the word masking explicitly. So here is a line you can use word for word with school if you want to. So you can say this: she presents as coping, but we believe she might be masking. The impact at home shows up as exhaustion, as overwhelm, as avoidance. We need support based on need, not on the fact that she's doing fine, or not on classroom disruption. Okay, so that is the exact word for word script you can say. Of course, you can alter a bit here and there if you want to. Guys, please hear this. Masking is a recognised, research-backed concept. You are not making it up. And if there is anybody that argues that it is not a real thing, send them to me. and we'll do a podcast live with them. Okay. It is recognised research-backed concept, okay? They don't have to have ADHD to mask, by the way. Masking is common in younger people. It doesn't have to be specific to ADHD. It can be specific to any neurodivergent condition. And I do know of people masking also mental health illnesses as well. Okay, so please do some more research if you need to. Strategy 4, I would ask for literacy access checks, not just behaviour monitoring, okay? So, and you know, literacy is a hill I'm dying on. So go to their English teacher or the English department, or obviously speak to the primary teacher and ask specifically, does she avoid reading aloud, or is she quite happy reading aloud? Does she read fluently but struggle to explain what she's read? Does she rush tasks and miss key details? Because again, masking isn't just about mimicking and being perfectionist and so on. We can see ADHD through literacy. So does she rush tasks and miss key details? Does she struggle with inference, extended writing, planning and revision? Okay, you want to know what's happening with literacy access, not just whether she's well behaved, because we can spot ADHD within literacy access. And number 5, always protect the relationship at home. If she's good, quote unquote, good all day and then dysregulated the moment she gets home, home isn't the problem. Home is that release valve. Like I said earlier, she trusts you enough to fall apart in front of you. And we can say, come on, grow thicker skin. And don't get me wrong, I've said that to kids in the past because the world is a tough place, but their job isn't to toughen them up. We need to just make sure we reduce the shame, reduce the overload, and build the routines that give us somewhere very, very soft to land. So let's think about bringing this to a close, because I like to keep these relatively short and sweet. Let's just land this here. So the UK data shows that girls are diagnosed at lower rates, and NHS England have been explicit in that it is under-recognised and underdiagnosed. Masking is a survival strategy that hides the need, and the research is clear. The more a girl masks, the higher her anxiety and depression symptoms are likely to be. And the literacy load that increases as they move through their school years, you know, as that load increases, that's where the cracks are going to appear. And by then, they've been there for years, okay? So pick one thing today. Is it thinking about the short pattern to give to school? Are you going to use the word masking in your next communication with them? Are you going to ask for literacy access instead of a behaviour report? Or at home, are you going to reduce the demand and reduce that shame where you can? And if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I knew something was off, but everyone keeps saying she's fine, trust your gut, and you know your daughter better than anybody, okay? Supported is the goal, not fine. And if she is doing fine, we have to ask at what cost. So one last thing before you guys go. I have a newsletter where I delve even deeper into all of this: ADHD, reading, literacy, practical tools for parents, no watered down advice, just super, super practical. The link below is a link tree, so click on that to sign up. That's in the description below. So you can sign up there. Again, if this episode helped, please subscribe, please share it with a parent who needs to hear it. And if you can, leave a comment to boost the reach, because every one of those things that you do there helps this reach families who really need it the most. So my name's Steph. I'll see you over at Inclusive Teacher Co. on all social media channels. I hope you got a lot out of this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.